Well, good evening, folks. I don't know if it's appropriate to do, but if it's the least appropriate thing we do tonight, we'll be in good shape. But we're just going to open tonight the same way we do most of our alderman meetings. So we're going to open up with a word of prayer and with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Our most gracious God and Heavenly Father, we come to you in Jesus' most holy and precious name, Lord. Thank you so much for this beautiful day and this wonderful weather. Thank you for allowing us to come here together as a community. Lord, we ask that you please be with each person up here as we ask questions and help them to answer honestly and from their heart. And help us to understand and derive as a community who is best for us and to lead us in the direction that you want us to go. Lord, thank you again for all that you are and all that you do. And Lord, thank you so much for your presence here today. It's in Jesus' name, Lord, we ask and pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, I want to say thank you for a great turnout tonight. Thanks for being here tonight, and thank you to our candidates for being here and being a part of this and accepting our invitation. I just want to take just a minute and introduce the candidates for those that might be in the room and not aware of who each one is. For Ward 1, on the left, we have Dale Arnold. For Ward 1, Dale Arnold. Dale is being challenged by Scott Schaefer, who's not in attendance tonight. For Ward 2, Yolanda West and Nancy Totten. For Ward 2, for Mayor, we have Mayor Michael Todd and Bill Fligg. And then for Ward 3, we have Bob Headley, and Chris Berry is supposed to be with us, but he is not yet here. But we're going to go ahead and get started. Let me just tell you a little bit about the format for tonight. Tonight is considered a meet the candidates night, not necessarily a challenge the candidates. And so we wanted to choose a format that would just give you as residents an opportunity to get to know a little bit about these folks up here. I know I haven't met, if Chris were here, there would be two of them that I've never even met. And so we wanted to give our residents an opportunity to get to meet and just get a basic understanding of what their thoughts and philosophies are in running for office. So as a result, no questions will be asked directly by the public in this format, although candidates would probably be more than willing to field your questions personally after the event has concluded. This format was chosen in order to meet the candidates and not to grill them or to stump them, so y'all can breathe a sigh of relief there. It is our desire that this format will allow the candidates to give thoughtful, unprovoked answers in order to get better acquainted with the vision, views, and policies of our candidates. The questions are simple, they're straightforward, they're clean, and they're not emotionally charged or drenched in agenda, personality, or past history. We'll give each candidate 2 minutes. Nancy, this is for you. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes to answer the question. Given the fact that we have many great questions and we want to allow each candidate to weigh in on each question, each answer will be timed, and each candidate will be permitted to finish their thought within 15 seconds after the buzzer goes off. All right, everyone ready? All right. Most all of the questions are geared for all of you as candidates, and you can feel free to respond or feel free to pass if you don't have a thought on the matter. You are not required to answer any particular question.
The last piece is that we'll start question 1 with Dale Arnold, and then question 2 will be started with Yolanda and down the road. That way, each person gets a chance to hear other answers as we go through, and it's not unfair to anyone.
All right, so question number 1 we'll begin with Dale. What do you believe is the role of alderman or mayor, and why do you wish to serve your constituents in that role?
Well, as a citizen in the community, I believe it's all of us' responsibility to step in and take part in the community. Those of us that do step up and run for office take on a little more of a responsibility in that role. I hope I would hear from the public before we make some decision. There are occasions where I hear from the public after the decision's made, whether they were happy with it or disappointed with it. But we try in many ways to try and at least get our name out there so people can have a way to get in contact with us about the issues, whether it be a phone call, an email, or a Facebook message. And that's probably the best way that I can represent and do the job as an alderman, is if people would let me know their feelings. And I'm sure, and I have been in the past, where what I thought was appropriate was explained to me by the citizens that wasn't what they would like to see. So, and it's changed my position on issues, as it should. And so I just hope that those people will contact me before decisions are made rather than after.
Yolanda?
Would you repeat the question again?
Absolutely. What do you believe is the role of alderman, and why do you wish to serve your constituents in that role?
I believe the role of alderman is to monitor the spending of the city, spend the citizens, our citizens, all of us, taxes in a wise manner. We primarily look at budgeting and making sure that the core things are met. We have clean water. We have a sewer system that's capable of handling all of the residents, not only now, but in the future. We've been building sewer plants and water towers and those type of things so that we have those facilities ready when the projection is that the population will double within the next 10 years, but we've been preparing for that. Another situation is roads, and I was happy to see that MoDOT was out looking at our road again, so hopefully they're going to be starting to finish that block and a half that isn't done. Looking forward to having that completed anyway. I think my role on this board is twofold, actually. I am the only business owner on the board, and I have been the only business owner on this board for the last 5 years. I think that gives me a perspective not only from the citizens, because I am also a resident of Ward 2, but I have a business in Ward 2 also. So I have a dual perspective here as a citizen, and also the implications and the struggles that we as business owners have in Green Valley.
Very good, thank you. Everybody's doing great. Nancy?
Well, I see alderman as being a representative of the people. I don't wait for them to call me. I generally, when I go out campaigning, ask if they would like to be on my calling list. That's like when it came up for the Baptist church, they wanted to have it one-way parking on the other side, and they had the ramp, and they came up to the city and they got it past their church, so it was no problem. I am very fortunate that I've had the same phone number for all these years, and I have no problem with people calling me and asking, because you can ask the city. I bet I called them today I had to call a gentleman while I was out campaigning, asked me about Kirby Street and being a light, because when he was turning on to Eagles Parkway, he didn't notice until the rear view mirror that there was flashing, and he would have been eligible for a ticket, and it upset him. So, of course, today I called to find that out, but that's the way I do. I do work with the businesses. I am quite familiar with the majority of them, and I try to let them know what's going on, that I hear if there's something that they need to be up here for. And I go to the businesses and utilize them for my own, because that's one of our problems. Our businesses need to be used by the citizens of Green Valley. because if you don't have a business, we're gonna be paying higher taxes. So, just call me up, that's what I'm here for.
Mayor Todd?
I really see my role as mayor is really being the liaison between the city and the residents. I spend a lot of time answering questions, text messages, Facebook messages, emails. Not so many phone calls nowadays. People don't call so often anymore. They like to put it in writing, I think. But I spend a lot of time responding to questions, answering concerns, and then I pass those on. City staff might laugh because usually every morning I send okay, this is the questions and concerns and agenda for the day email that we need to address. So I send that every morning, and they go through those and get back with me or get back with the residents of that. So.
Thank you. Mr. Flake?
I see the role of mayor as the person that directs the meeting of the aldermen, and the mayor also breaks the tie vote. But more important, I see the role of mayor as getting with such organizations as the Mid-America Regional Council and other organizations such as that to get Green Valley's name out there and to also see that we get our fair share of grants and monies from other sources.
Alderman Headley?
I see the role of alderman kind of twofold from a citizen standpoint. A lot of folks come to us with complaints. We do our best to field those questions. If we can't answer them, we route them through the chain of command and see what we can get done. We have a responsibility to keep an eye on the spending with two things in mind, I think. One is, maintain the infrastructure we have, and the other one is plan for the future, look for what we can do and how we can best spend the money that we have available to us without breaking the bank. One of the other things I think as aldermen that we have to do besides represent the citizens is to be basically a cheerleader, representing the city. Every time every one of us as citizens go somewhere else, you get asked where are you from, or a conversation comes up. I'm proud to be from Green Valley. I think it's a great community. We have a lot to offer. There's a lot more to come, and I think I've stated this before when I had run in prior races. I want my kids to be able to say, I want to come back home, after I finish college. I want to be, I want to have this as my landing spot, so to speak. That's where I'm at.
Very good. Thank you to each of you for those answers, and nobody got buzzed. We may just get out quickly tonight.
Nancy was close.
She was.
Excuse me. I was trying to keep 2 minutes.
You did a great job. Thank you.
Yeah, 2 seconds left.
Okay, 2 seconds left, and I'll tell you, I was so proud because today I had a lady come to my house and she bought me a coffee can full of popcorn
That's
from
2 seconds.
Independence.
Question number 2. Start with you, Yolanda. What is your personal vision for the community of Green Valley in, say, 10 years or 20 years? Where do you see Green Valley growing in the future? Okay.
Thanks for making it certain. You just missed one question.
Okay, thank you.
Is everybody okay if we give them an opportunity to answer that? If we can hold this moment, Yolanda. Question number 1, Chris, welcome, thanks for being here tonight.
Thanks for having me.
What do you believe is the role of aldermen, and why do you wish to serve your constituents in that?
I believe the role of an alderman is to have a voice for the people of your ward and to be able to speak for them in a way that they can't.
Great, thanks.
All right, I'll go back to the next question, Yolanda. Thank you. Okay. I'll repeat the question again, just so you're familiar with it. what is your personal vision for the community of Green Valley in, say, 10 years or 20 years? Where do you see Green Valley growing in the future?
I think that, the projection of doubling our current, population is very realistic. I think that we are working toward having the infrastructure and the things available for that growth. I think that, we have made a major step in hiring an economic development, director that, will be not only helping our current businesses with business retention, but also helping to recruit in new businesses. We desperately need new businesses in Green Valley. We need that to new services. We need jobs in Green Valley. Desperately need to have jobs here. And that will only come through growth of the business community. We have infrastructure that is ready now, not only on the north side of the highway with the industrial park. There are several buildings there that, spec buildings that have been put up in lieu of interest in that type of building type, 90,000 square feet and more. So I think that's something that's going to help also. But we need jobs, definitely need jobs. We need more restaurants. We need various services that we currently do not have.
Well, I'm glad she's so optimistic, but I am concerned. I'm noticing, okay, we had a wonderful fabric shop. It's gone. It didn't last very long. We have to have our people support our town. Now, I had someone tell me, oh, there's going to be a KFC. Well, I happen to manage it, and I also train different people in my years of experiences, but this one told me, Nancy, Green Valley's got a history. They don't support their businesses. And I hate to say this, but I would like to see our neighborhoods talk to each other a little bit more, because we don't even know our people. I'm very grateful. I do know mine, and as some of them do in this town, they know me. But, you know, I try to support. I encourage people to support, but I'm very proud that we have just filled 4 houses on my street. That really had concerned me. That was 4, one of them was 4 years empty and then 3. But we are getting out there and we're working together on doing this. And I think if we work together, we will grow, and our children and people will say, hey, that's a wonderful place to live. And I don't want to see us throw away our history. Is that okay with you?
Well, I think the good news is we've made a lot of strides with the city and making sure we have infrastructure in place for the growth, be it, you know, sewer treatment plants, water expansion that we've done. You know, the outlook shows us a possibility, you know, growing as high as 25,000 residents in the next 25 years. I don't know if we'll see, you know, 25,000 residents in the next 25 years or not, but I mean, the area is there that could. I don't know if we'll see that, but I think the key right now is to really work on our retail and commercial growth. I think with the, you know, Main Street being completed, with the, you know, interchange finally getting done, and we're seeing movement on the, you know, corner by the movie theater with the Price Chopper and other businesses there. I think, you know, that will really start to spur the development around the interchange, which will then help us elsewhere in town. So.
You asked me to look 10 years into the future, and that's a pretty difficult situation, in that Green Valley is situated in such a position where it's much easier if you want to go to a restaurant to drive to Blue Springs. Also, if we don't get our taxes and debt under control, we're not gonna grow at all. Nobody is gonna wanna bring a business to Grain Valley with the type of water rates, sewer rates, and property tax rates we have. As far as I see it, the future should be more towards finding manufacturing that will come here, because, like I say, I see commercial, going to Blue Springs. If you want a steak, you're gonna go to the 2 miles, 3 miles up the road. I'm sorry to say, I'd like to see it in Grain Valley too, but, and looking into the future, I don't see it.
Can you restate the question one more time?
Sure. What is your personal vision for the community of Grain Valley in, say, 10 years or 20 years? Where do you see Grain Valley growing in the future?
Besides the population growth, obviously we've seen a slowdown in the last 4 or 5 years, especially since the recession. But I think even during that time and the planning and efforts of both the staff that's been in place, the different members of the board that's come and gone, we've positioned ourselves to accommodate all of that future growth, and we need to continue looking to accommodate more. I think if we don't plan now for 10 years or 15 years down the road, we're gonna be in the same boat we were in 2006. This was a long, painful journey from 2006 to now to get to where we're seeing the fruits of everyone's labor out here. Once we got that in place, it will take time. Those businesses will fill in. New people will come to town. We have to do something. I don't believe it's necessarily all manufacturing. We have to do something from a commercial standpoint that brings in the sales tax and the real property tax, because the schools are going to keep growing because we have great schools. We'll have to keep up with that population. That population is going to demand services that we don't have now. That's going to demand businesses, and there's absolutely no need and no reason for them to go to Blue Springs, Oak Grove, or Independence when we should be able to provide that right here. It's just a matter of creating that right environment to bring the new businesses in. And I know a lot of folks want to keep the history, as do I, but the cat's out of the bag as far as the growth is concerned. When I first moved to town, there were 1,900 people. I think we're close to 15,000 now, roughly. So that's where I see it.
Okay. Chris?
I can look around and see right now that Grain Valley is a growing community as it is. I see a lot of houses being sold in the neighborhood that I live in right now. So what we need to do is we just need to keep pushing to get businesses to move to Grain Valley. We got that going on right now with the Price Chopper coming in, but we just need to keep pushing businesses to come into our community so that the people don't have to drive to Blue Springs to get a steak or go grocery shopping. They can stay right here in our community, and then we can get those taxes from those people to stay in our community as well.
Okay. As the same as Alderman Pedley, I moved to Grain Valley about 30 years ago. This town was about 2,400. The town I came from was about 4,800. I've watched my whole community go backwards due to people left the community because there was nothing there for them. And that community is now down around 2,400, about the size Grain Valley was. We have grown to approximately 15,000 over the past 30 years, and I see us continuing to grow. And I think some of the issues that people have concerns with about our taxes and our debt service, I share part of that. I mean, that's part of my responsibility, and probably the responsibility of some of the other people sitting in this room, because so many of us came to Grain Valley so fast that we were bulging at the seams. You couldn't turn your water on and wash your car a lot of times because there wasn't enough water. Our water system was so underdeveloped for that as fast as our community had grown. So people that were on the board and made decisions before, long before I or most of any of us here were on the board, to make decisions to put in a bigger water system, water towers, and so forth. They added to the sewer system. We've had to add to it more to actually deal with the amount of water that we anticipate being able to be used with the continued growth. And those are very tough decisions to make because most of us are not used to the kind of dollars we're talking about when we look at $23 million to improve the wastewater treatment plant. You know, most of us look at $230 to pay our electric bill. So it's a little overwhelming to deal with those kind of numbers. So we deal with those with a lot of advice from people from in our organization and our city manager to outside advice from financial directors and so forth to help us make the right decisions. So a lot of what's going on with our tax base there is there from 10, 15 years ago because we had to meet and deal with a lot of the need at that time. We ran into a problem is that we had that lull in between where we didn't get the continued growth. And so now our taxes kind of, where we would have had more help with some of those expenses, we're now having to pay more of the taxes.
Need you to wrap up.
I think the growth we got going, more and more people are going to continue to come, and as more and more businesses see what's going on with the business that we have got coming, they'll see that Green Valley will support the businesses, and we will begin to have more and more businesses here, and that will help a lot with our taxes as well, because we lose over $1 million a year in sales tax to the other communities around us, and that would go a long ways in helping lower everybody's taxes in our community, and that's why some of the decisions that have been made recently with the I-70 interchange and taking that roadblock out of our way so we can start getting that development that we're seeing now. It's been there for 20 years, keeping us from growing. Okay.
All right, and Arnold. We have 4 incumbents and 3 that are running for office, 3 candidates in the group today. And so if you're an incumbent, this question will be answered a little differently than if you are coming on for the first time or anticipating coming on for the first time. But what 3 things would you like to see accomplished or finished in the next 2 years if you're elected or re-elected? And we will begin this question with Nancy Cotton. What 3 things would you like to see accomplished or completed in the next 2 years if you are re-elected or elected?
Well, as you know, I talk, and I'm out a lot, and I'm upset with the fact that I had a gentleman tell me that they're planning on moving because they've lived in their neighborhood for 2 years and nobody talks to them. They've tried to say hi and no one talks. It's because of fear, I'm sure, because everybody doesn't trust. I'd like to see a little more coming together on some of that. I would like to see more lights, because it worries me with kids crossing the main drag after they get this all redone, because I've had some worry with the swimming pool, and I've listened to parents talk about that and coming up to the deal. I'd like to see us just pay for it as we go, not necessarily in debt, because I think we're going to have some harder times than all the rest of you guys do, but that's just my old way of doing things. So my basic concern is everybody work together. You know, it's sad. I had a lady tell me it costs $22 to watch her 85-year-old husband who has Alzheimer's, and they want to guarantee it 4 hours. I go do it for nothing. They want $47 to come and give the man a bath. You know, this is what I'm saying. A lot of you are younger and aren't seeing it. Some of us are getting older and we get connected with this. We need to get more back to community and back to what the warm and fuzzy is, as they say, and back to church.
I think the first thing is the, completion of Main Street out here, especially through the business, old part of the business district there. It was supposed to be done last year, but with problems I ran into with access and the railroad and such, we had to put it on hold. So I think that'd be the first thing we want to see done in the next, start talking short term, is completion of that this summer. Next would be, the completion of the northeast corner. They hope to have, price chopper finished by fall of 2017 at the latest. I think once that is complete, you'll see the other retail, spots up there fill in with restaurants and other things. And with that, I think you'll also start seeing some action on some of the other corners as well. That is key to my number 3, because my number 3 would be, we have an opportunity with increased tax revenue from those corners once they get going to start making additional payments towards some of the things out there that we have. I think we're going to see the biggest bang for our buck would be put some money towards paying off those water revenue bonds we have, which would then thus allow us to lower the water sewer bills, which I think would be a big piece for the community to see the water bills drop. So those are the top 3.
Mr. Flake?
Other than the reduction in debt, which I would like to see and work on, over the next 3 years, I would like to see better communication between this organization and the citizens of Grain Valley, this organization and the school district, and this organization and the Mid-America Regional Council and other organizations such as that. And that's what I would like to work on, is better communication, which I think we desperately need. There's my 2 minutes.
Wow.
Ring the bell.
Thank you, sir. Alderman Hedges?
From a construction standpoint, like to obviously see the northeast corner finished. That was one of the very first things that we started talking about in 2006. Like to see that finished and see the next corner started, for that matter. Like to see a lot of the new improvements to the center part of town that have been kind of left on the back burner while everything else has been going on. And then put in place a plan that what I think builds on the relationship with the school district and the library and any other organization to come up with a long-term plan for the property out south of town, where the old Snibar farmhouse is. I think that's going to be a huge opportunity in the future, and it could change the dynamic of everything in town if we get the right things in place and the right organizations involved.
Sure.
What I would like to see within the next 2 years is I would just like to see the community grow. I would like to see that price chopper be built, because when you grow the community and you bring business into the community, then our taxes stay within the community, and then we can take those taxes, we can put it into the schools, we can put it into safety, and we can use it for anything that the city needs that they don't get when people go elsewhere to Blue Springs, anything like that.
I would like to definitely see the 4 corners all the way around the I-70 interchange, see activity and have businesses come in there, restaurants and so forth, because I know I have relatives that come as far as 70 miles away to go to our theater, but then they have to go on to Independence to have dinner. And so sit-down restaurants is something I think are very high on the agenda that a lot of people would like to see. So they can stay here and spend their money here and keep our tax dollars here. We really need to see more residential growth for those people that are going to come here. More developers and more builders building homes. Right now, the average time for a home that goes on the market is about 3 days. I know that firsthand because my daughter and son-in-law are trying to find a home in Grain Valley. They decided they want to be part of our community. So I'm very happy to have them come here. But they sometimes can't get their paperwork done fast enough to get it in, even get a bid on a house that they've looked at. Because they literally go within 1 to 3 days after being listed. So that shows that Grain Valley is a high in demand community. 'cause it took 19 days for them to even get a nibble on theirs. Compare Green Valley to Lee Summit. We're doing something right here. I mean, people want to come here, and our residences are high in demand. I'd like to just kick around the idea of an incubator business of starting a new community newspaper. Because we are in such a dire straits to have some type of communication in this community that people can find out what's going on. And I don't know if it's the only answer, but it seems to be one thing that helps tie a lot of communities together if they still have a newspaper. And whether we somehow get the Examiner more interested in us, where we have them more involved out here, or someone else comes in and works with that, and we work with them with some type of a program or grant that we help them get to get something off the ground, to have a newspaper in our community, so we can let people know how our community is growing and how good a community it is.
Thank you, Alderman Arnold. Alderman West.
I have to totally agree with Mr. Arnold that communication with the residents of Green Valley is a high priority. I think that's one of our biggest deficits right now, is the fact that we cannot communicate with the residents of Green Valley. I mean, when we lost the newspaper, it was, you know, even though it was a weekly publication, at least it was some publication. We do get some exposure from the Examiner, but we really need something more in Green Valley. I think the second thing is jobs. We have an excellent school. The students there are, you know, the minute they graduate, they're out looking for a job, and the only place is to leave Green Valley to find some job. And, you know, I think that's a tragedy. We need to have a system here, or businesses here that generate jobs and good paying jobs. I think that's very important. I think that we need to start looking at the comprehensive plan. We spent a lot of money for the comprehensive plan, and we had a lot of input from the residents of Green Valley and their vision of what this community should look like. And I think that as soon as we can start looking at that, and Bob Headley talked about the property out south. The city made a major commitment by purchasing that 52 acres out south of the Snybar Farm. We've had a lot of interest in the community of other groups that are interested in partnering with the city on various projects to go out there. So I think, and again, that was an area that was identified in the comprehensive plan as an area where the city would grow. So I think that those are the three things I think are very important at this point.
Can I add 2 cents? You need to know that you can sit down at Brody's and have a nice meal. And that's here in Green Valley on Main Street. Thank you.
All right, so this is for time. For those candidates whose platforms are the city spends too much money and has too much debt, in what 2 ways would you cut city expenditures, and how do you propose the tax levies be lowered?
I'll tackle the tax levy first. I think the biggest thing with the tax levy is we have to get the debt off of the books. It's on the books. And that's, I mean, it's there for a reason. It was there to, you know, do infrastructure improvements in town that we needed. I mean, back when Snybar Farms was originally annexed into town, I mean, I think that was kind of the, you know, turning point there for the community, where we went to a community of around, you know, 1,300 to the community of, you know, over 13,000 we are today. Because when that was annexed and platted, I mean, those were a lot of houses at the time that went in. I don't think we were prepared for the amount of houses that got built there in a short amount of time, and thus the city had to issue debt in order to keep up with those. I mean, when I first got elected, we had people on Ryan Road and top of Foxtel that couldn't take a shower at night because everyone got home from work, turned on their water, and there wasn't enough water pressure for them to even have water coming out of their faucets up there. So, I mean, we had to do certain things. So I think the biggest thing is, you know, keep paying towards that debt, pay it off early when we can. You know, we have debt from the community center and the pool coming off in 2020, another debt coming off soon after that. So I think that's where you're gonna see the biggest impact on the tax levy. And our tax levy is $1.72 for the city portion. Over $1 of that is debt service. I mean, you subtract the debt service, you know, we're at a tax levy around 70 cents. That's the same exact general fund tax levy that Blue Springs has, which is actually lower than what Lee Summit has. So I think that's the biggest thing we have to do is keep paying towards that and get that debt that had the issues when we grow paid off. As for, you know, city, expenditures, you know, we've been pretty flat on our budget the last few years, expenditure-wise. I mean, I think city staff does a good job of spending, you know, little of what needs to be spent, so.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Twing?
Well, of course, I'm crazy on the debt, and after 2020, we still owe considerable amount of, debt. We owe over 14 million in bond debt, plus probably the water and sewer, will be down about 10 million, so we're back at the 24 million, which is our bond debt now, and, we need to look very seriously at the budget and, the spending that we do, and we need to work with the city administrator and all the department heads, and I guess you could almost say educate them that the fact that the money is in the budget doesn't mean they need to spend it. They need to be conservative on their spending. We don't need new trucks every year. We don't need a lot of other things that we seem to be spending money on. We have got to pay for the mistakes of the past. And I say mistakes of the past. We hired a developer, and he put it in a theater and went broke. And if we'd investigated him, we'd found that he had 6 other projects that he never finished. That's my 2 minutes.
Please repeat the question.
Sure. For those candidates whose platforms are the city spends too much money and has too much debt, in what 2 ways would you cut city expenditures, and how do you propose the tax levy be lowered?
As far as the debt, in going back through and doing prep for this evening, at the end of 2014, we had about $22.5 million in debt. We actually have lowered the debt considerably by early payment of some bonds and by refinancing to the tune of 17, 18% roughly. So things like that, you know, obviously are no-brainers to take advantage of. We need to continue paying down our debt as fast as we can, but we still have to look at what we need for the future. If we don't plan for the future, we don't prep for the future, we're gonna be back on this merry-go-round and have debt again. The reason we had the water towers and everything else come up all at once is because we didn't have city planners at the time, and everybody was doing their dead level best to keep up with everything that was going on. Construction-wise, the staff that was here at the time, I'm sure they were buried trying to keep up with everything that was coming to town. You don't get water towers for free. We have to pay for that sort of thing. The best way to do that is continue to put things in place, like the interchange that's been finished, to bring businesses to town, to foster the businesses that are here. The more people stay in town, the more people go to those businesses. As far as spending in general, spending has gone up. I can tell you, it's gone up incrementally, but it's proportion to, you know, the amount of people in town. In 2005, between 2005 and 2015, we've had an increase in our general fund revenue of about 76%. At the same time, our spending stayed right in line with that as far as matching, you know, dollar for dollar almost. There were some bumps and that sort of thing. With that said, though, our population grew almost 150% during that time, when all the dust settled, our ending fund balance from 2005 to 2015 grew 61.5% roughly. So, you know, while there's a lot of talk about spending frivolously, I would argue that that's the case.
Thank you. Chris?
Like I've been saying, what we need to do is we just need to keep businesses coming to Green Valley, because once we do that, then we can take the taxes and we can lower the water bills and all that kind of stuff, and keep putting money back into the community so that we can get those bonds lowered, and thus get everyone's taxes lowered with the taxes that keep staying in the community.
As mentioned before, we continue to look at any way we can to reduce our debt. We've gone through quite a bit of refinancing with lower interest rates, and through that saved quite a bit of money by either refinancing the whole amount or paying a certain portion of it all and refinancing the balance. It saved the city several hundreds of thousands of dollars in those processes. Through some of the other expenditures that we've done, we're looking at bringing in other revenue sources through sales tax, property taxes, personal property taxes of businesses and so forth coming in the community. As that portion grows, we'll actually be able to reduce the amount of sales tax and property tax needed from the citizens out there. We'll be able to spread the debt that we have over more people, over more property, and so forth. So, and it's all part of the whole process that started years ago when they started dealing and getting prepared for the growth, is that we had to have the stuff here because they knew they were coming, and we hoped they would come as quick as they were at that point, but they didn't. But as they start coming again, that additional growth is going to give us the revenue, the new sources of revenue to deal with some of that debt and hopefully pay it off quicker and take care of it. I also have to remind everybody, and I'm part of it again, when I moved to this community, I voted for the bond issues to put in new water systems and to improve streets in certain portions of the area. You know, all those things were done with the voters' approval, just like the school district does all their additions and improvements at the school. You know, if it wasn't for the voters saying yes, we wouldn't be doing it. And we wouldn't have as much debt as we have there because we can't go into that debt without voter approval. So, you know, it's a team thing. I mean, it's the community, the aldermen, and the other community organizations like the school, the Chamber of Commerce, and the library, and all these other entities in our community. It's a team process to make all this happen and make Green Valley the community we all want to see.
Thank you.
Done?
Shut me down.
Actually, the bond refinancing saved the community $500,000, so I thought it was well worth the fact that we were doing the refinancing on the bonds. I tend to agree with others that have spoken with regards to not focusing so much on the budget, because we spend a great deal of time on the budget. We spend months working on the budget. The city crew, the city staff does an excellent job putting together the budget, and then we review virtually every line item on that budget. I think they do an excellent job. I think what we need to concentrate on is increasing sales taxes, whatever we can to recruit businesses into Green Valley to have more money coming in, and, you know, instead of focusing on trying to reduce the budget even more. So my philosophy is let's put our bang for our buck by recruiting, supporting our economic development director that's here, to get more businesses in so that we have more sales taxes and those type of things to help with that component.
Okay. Nancy?
Well, you know, you watch the pennies, the dollars will grow, and that's the way I was raised. And I'm sorry, I believe whatever happened to kids getting out there and helping with picking up stuff and that, or mowing the stuff for the city, and, you know, help just do a little bit as their community jobs. Now, fellas, I'm all for baseball too, but I think if we can pull together and do. I have been working with several businesses to where in time, you will see they're working together. But we need to have us all work together, and a newspaper is a wonderful idea. I wish, my husband got a little upset with me because I keep the Examiner, the Star, and all the magazines because I'm worried about lack of communication and I feel like, how many people read the paper? They're all glued to the computer. And when we had 12 days without electricity, I was okay in my house. But do you know the funny thing? I was down at the laundromat because they had electricity, and a woman come in and she goes, "Oh my gosh, my kids can't see cable TV. You don't know what it's like." And I'm going, "Hey, we've got a whole group of houses, no electricity. Start with the basics, people, and work together. Businesses work together and know what we're doing, and we will come out okay."
Thank you, Nancy.
No problem.
This next question is a simple question, but it requires a little bit of a lengthy explanation, so I'll try to make sure that it's clear. We hear some candidates say there's too much debt, and others say that the debt was necessary to be prepared for future growth. If you could rewind the clock 20 years, what steps would you have taken to provide the services needed, but minimize the debt? And would your plan be development friendly? Now, understanding that we can't undo the past, and only to get an idea of how you process balancing current issues with future growth, had you been in office 20 years ago, what would you have done to make sure the city was prepared for the development that's occurring now around I-70? And we'll begin with you, Mr. Flake.
Since I didn't use my 2 minutes on the last question, I'm going to use part of them and go back. They say we passed the bonds to improve the streets. We also paid all the people on Front Street an easement so we could widen the streets and put in sidewalks and sewers. A number of years ago, we paid that easement, and it was to last for a year while they did the work. And all those people, all the residents from Maine to, Kirby, got paid. The street's not done. We decided we needed to use the money somewhere else. This is kind of some of the problems I'm speaking of.
They used it on Ryan Road.
I don't care where they used it. They paid you, didn't they?
Yes,
Now,
they
as
did.
far as your next question, I can't answer it. It's crazy. But if somebody answers it, fine. But I can't.
Okay. Alderman Headley, you want to try?
Or pass yours on.
No, I'll do my best to answer the second piece of that question.
Knowing that we can't undo the past, had you been in office 20 years ago, what would you have done to make sure the city was prepared for future development that's occurring now in town and around I-70?
But, as far as the first part of the question, if you could rewind the clock, some of the things I saw, initially when I came in, there's a boom in growth. I don't think city staff was that big in 2000, 2001. There was a lot of volunteer work. I think a lot of the aldermen actually worked, and helped with a lot of the functions that city staff do now. And one of the, I think, issues or weak points we had was we had developers coming in and dozing land as fast as they could. We didn't have a city planner by any definition. I think if we would have had a city planner, that would have helped. We gave away our water and sewer tap fees. They weren't free, but they were so discounted compared to cities around us that if we would have done comparable water and tap fees, a lot of the debt that we took on to pay for the water towers and such would have been taken care of. in that growth automatically with those tax fees. As far as prepping for, the growth on I-70, I think we learned a lot. I can remember sitting on the board when the very first group of lawyers came in to talk to us years ago about the TIF. And, I mean, it felt horribly bad, and I think we all voted that down. There's a lot of lessons learned for other things that we've done as well. There was a lot of, I won't say mistakes, maybe lack of knowledge, lack of understanding, and I think now, as time's gone by, all of us are smarter. We have professionals within the city. We have professionals within the city staff that do this kind of work every day. They went to school for this kind of work, and it helps us be more prepared. We get better information, and it's not, it's not someone trying to get one over on someone else. I mean, everything's done, where it benefits the citizens and the city by making better decisions.
Thank you, Mr. Hadley. Just for clarification for the rest of you that are going to answer, how you answer this really just depends on whether you're on the side that the debt incurred was necessary, or whether you believe that there's too much debt, and it was a waste for our community to spend that money on that infrastructure. Chris?
Well, any kind of community that's growing, you gotta have money coming in to support the community. So going back 20 years, I would have probably tried to develop the land sooner, so that it would be prepared for the growth that we have now. And I'm sorry. And then we could have used that growth that we have now to work towards paying down our bonds with the taxes that would have been accrued through that growth if we developed that land sooner.
Alderman Arnold.
Okay. Looking back at that time, those individuals that sat on the board weren't a whole lot different than us today. They got information and asked advice of people to help them with what they needed to do for the growth that was coming. The school district and those planners were both telling us that we were going to see a doubling to tripling the size of our community, which was staggering to look at. And they could have done smaller increments of improvements, but if you look back at what it cost to do a lot of what they did then and compare it to the cost would have done been if we'd have done it in increments over time. I'm sure the school district can really explain to you how much more they spend building buildings now if they could have afforded to build it all back 10 years ago. I mean, the building would be a third less the cost. So we're looking at a third to two-thirds less debt because they did take the aggressive steps that they did back 20 years ago. Interest rates have been significantly lower and so forth as time's gone on. So we've even been able to win by getting lower interest rates on some of the refinancing, some of the debt. On the issue about Front Street, a little information there. We were looking at a significant need to change I-70. It has been the roadblock for 20 plus years of anything happening in Green Valley because that was an F-rated intersection. State said it wasn't going to do anything, and nobody wanted to build anything around it because they're going to invest $1 million to $5 million on a business like McDonald's or whatever. And then the road construction comes in and shuts them down for a year or more, which could almost put a business out of business without a lack of business coming to them. If we hadn't moved and walked away from the expenditure of some easements on Front Street, which is probably $20,000, I don't know, it's insignificant to the money we would have lost from the state matching funds for that project of at least $8 million. That's another $8 million we didn't have to come out of our pockets directly to get those improvements done. By reallocating some money to do it. And as that project continues to develop up, we will be able to go back to Front Street and finish that project and further south and take care of those issues. And it's very much in the forefront of Alderman to see that completed, because I know Alderman West has beat that drum pretty regularly. We want to see those improvements get done, and as soon as that funding's available, we all agree with it.
Thank you. Thank you. Alderman West?
I think a lot of the changes that occurred a few years back were all dictated by MoDOT and the fact that they were going to do I-70 and the interchange. I think everything that Green Valley did was in conjunction with that. It was their timing. It wasn't necessarily the timing for the city. But that had to occur before anything else could occur with regards to completion of the streets, whether it be Front Street or Walnut or whatever the streets are. In order to finish or at least meet the city's commitment with regards to the interchange, money had to come from somewhere, and it actually came from Ward 2 and the improvements that were supposed to have occurred on Main Street. So I think that was well worth it, the fact that we at least have that part done, and that allowed Green Valley to grow. Otherwise, we would be back where we were 10 years ago.
Ms. Todd?
Yep. Well, I'm not like everyone else, I'm sorry. I don't see the growth. I've listened to real estate companies say that there was foreclosures here that at one time too great. Like I said before, we have had a lot of empty houses on my street, but they're getting filled. But, you know, the debt is debt. And you don't want to hear me on debt, because we got the fire department we only are stationary to one fire department, and I'm still waiting to get an itemized ambulance bill for $930 for a 4-mile ride, but that's okay. You know, you have to do on things, and we have to manage our money. The city needs to manage its money, and I'm sorry, I don't see as much growth as everybody does. And I'm tired of hearing people tell me as soon as their son graduates from college, we're moving. And this is what I went home upset about on a Sunday evening, because that's what I was hearing, was negativity. I'd love to hear some of the people in the audience what their view is on some of this stuff, because we have to get to the basics. And I know there's some people that was involved in some of this on the early stages 20-some years ago that isn't always happy. But that's okay. I mean, we're gonna get there. We all work together.
Years ago, what everyone in town heard was, you bring the rooftops, you're gonna bring the commercial businesses, and that's what people wanted. When, you know, sections like the farms were annexed in, Rosewood, Woodbury, all those things began to be annexed in, as Bob stated, you know, we weren't really prepared for the permitting and tap fees and things at that time. Water tap fees were probably half of what they should have been when those houses were going in. Those tap fees are what go towards paying for infrastructure. Without those tap fees to pay for infrastructure, that money has to come from somewhere else. In this instance, it came from debt. You know, we weren't really equipped with the building inspectors that we needed to have. I mean, we've had roads failing in places like Snybar Farms that shouldn't be failing. And the reason for that is if you go out there and bore some of those roads, I can remember when they redid Nelson a few years back. You go out there and you bore some of those roads, you have a couple inches of concrete, and then you're hitting dirt. I mean, there's no proper, you know, base material down. You know, they were laying asphalt on top of dirt because they were trying to build them so fast. And, you know, that's catching up with us now when we're having to, you know, repave and reconstruct these streets sooner than what really they probably should be reconstructed. So, I mean, all of those factors You know, we grew so fast. We were, between 2000 and 2010, we were the second fastest per capita growing city in the state of Missouri, only behind Wentzville. So, I mean, when you grow that fast and you're not quite prepared for it, you're gonna run into some hurdles.
Okay, this next question, was actually answered a little bit before. I want to recap some of that information and ask a follow-up question to that. So Grand Valley property tax is about $9.40 per $100 of assessed valuation. And currently, we get about 18% of that, or about $1.72. Now, with that said, there's been a lot of talk about lowering taxes and trying to cut spending. But knowing that we only get $1.72 that actually comes to the city out of that $9.40 per $100 of evaluation, you know, how do you feel like you're overcommitting to lowering taxes when you don't have control of that 82% of the property tax that's charged to the city? You know, and with that $1.72, say again?
Is there a question there?
I'm getting there. You know, with that said, you know, the point of the whole question is simply, you know, are we looking to save money on the tax bill, and are we focused in doing that in the wrong direction, or is it still important to lower those tax dollars there and cut that tax even more when we have very little to work with? Bob?
My question?
Your question.
Okay. I think at this time, just to go blatantly say we're gonna lower taxes, I think technically we shoot ourselves in the foot. I think we have to do everything we can to increase the tax base, bring the tax revenue in to pay those bonds off. Once we get those bonds paid off, to the mayor's earlier comment, that drops us down to 72 cents, basically for the levy, if we could just wipe out all the debt. That's a lot more tolerable for everyone else. And it will obviously attract more business. Once that happens, I think we can also consider looking at lowering the sales tax. That'll have a bigger impact, but you gotta have that broader base and you gotta have the debt gone. And until that time, I think the only thing we would do by cutting the taxes any significant degree would be basically impeding services, not being able to do equipment refreshes, not being able to fix, you know, sidewalks, roads, those sorts of things. Not to mention that all the inputs over the last 5-10 years for expenses to the city, like everyone else, has gone up significantly, specifically healthcare. So we have to also be able to maintain a competitive wage to attract, you know, good people to make our community better. We can hire people at a much cheaper rate, but we've done that in the past, and it's cost us a lot more money than just the savings on their salaries. So I think until we get rid of the debt, you know, we can't do a whole lot. You know, we can push around the edges on the expenses, and we can push around the edges on the tax. But to make a significant dent, we gotta get rid of the debt.
Thank you. Chris?
What we need to do is we need to focus on bringing businesses into the community so that we can pay on the debt and pay on the taxes and pay on the bonds and all that. And then we can start putting that money back into the community and building it up even more to bring in more businesses within the community so that we can keep our money here and just keep growing the community.
I think you've shown a light on a situation that a lot of people look at this board to try and control the overall property tax. And as you've shown there, that our $1.72 is just a small part of the overall $9 and something. We've got Jackson County, the library, the blind, I mean, the list goes on and on of what this, and then the school, which happens to be the largest portion of it. It's expensive to have good schools. And they have the dollars that they have on their levy because the voters have approved their levies. They just approved another no-cost levy increase to expand the high school. Sometimes what the voter doesn't understand is that if you hadn't approved that, there would have been an opportunity for a decrease in that tax because they won't be able to go out for that debt, and they wouldn't have to have that money to be paying off a debt service. But because we want better schools, we want better roads, we want water, we want the water to go away when we're done with it, we've had to go into the debt we've had. And all those major debts that we've gotten into have been done predominantly with the voters' approval. So it's a shared responsibility, and that the debt's there, and this board takes on that responsibility heavily, that we look at every opportunity to reduce that debt. And we're working toward the direction of bringing in more businesses, because that widens the revenue stream of money coming in to help spread that debt out, so it becomes more livable for everybody.
Can I add one quick comment to Alderman Arnold's comment about the school? Those levies, if we didn't pass those levies and vote to pass those levies to support the schools, our kids would be crammed into smaller and smaller spaces. I believe the last board meeting, the school board meeting I went to, one of the comments was that, or one of the points of discussion was, this year there's over 4,100 kids in the school. They're having the same problems we're having, and the reason people are coming to town is because of the schools. So, we don't want our kids in trailers like, they had to do in 1991 out by the old high school, and that was painful for everyone. So, to Dale's point, some of that is definitely an obligation that I think all of us voted to take on.
Thank you.
I think it's important to note the fact that the city has not raised the levy now for quite some time. The levy gets raised, but it's not because of the city raising the levy. So that part has stayed more or less the same. I think the key again is business retention and business recruitment. I think these will be the saviors of the city by increasing the sales tax and those revenues coming in to eliminate the debt, number one. 2020 is a significant year for us because we will be actually getting rid of, I think, 2 of the bonds at that point in time. So, we're trying to hang in there. We're trying to do the best we can with what we have at this point in time.
Nancy?
Well, you're talking to old school, and I'm sorry. We don't spend money if we don't have it. And I'm sorry, the schools need, and there's necessities for them, but I heard something the other night when I was out. They're talking about, we need to do something with some of the bathrooms for the sports events, and that we might have to, put in new bleachers, because once they mess with the aluminum, they can't have this, it has to be different. And I'm sitting there going, what? And that's one of the things I'm checking on. I'm very proud of my husband and I, because we own 2 houses, they're totally paid off. We own the car, there's 2 cars, they're totally paid off. And thank God, because we've had medical. But I'm sorry, you live within the means, and this town is a small town, and we don't know how to support ourselves. As soon as we learn this, and the communication we do need, because, okay, make fun all you want and grin all you want, but you know what? We save cardboard. That goes for scholarship money. How many people in this town use cardboard? Let's utilize what's available for us that doesn't cost money. And that's what I don't understand, but, that's not quite neat. And I'm sorry, I'm not neat either, even though, as some have made fun of some of the things. I did go to the country club, I did go to private schools all my life, but one thing I learned, you stay in your means. And that's what we need to do, work together and stay within our means. Shop here in town. what business is coming when they've had businesses come in and go out? And then when they get one in that makes good, decent food, and they go, oh, it's too expensive. Hey, so's Applebee's. You know, let's get together and get in our meetings.
Thank you.
I think really the only way you're gonna make an impact on the city portion of that overall levy is you're gonna have to attack the debt portion of that. And the way you're gonna do that is by, letting it pay out or further development in the community to bring more money in to pay more towards that. You start getting into that 72 cents that's more for the general fund, you start making cuts to that, you're looking at making drastic cuts to city services. I hear people all the time already say that they don't think we have enough police officers or that such. You start making cuts to the general fund and city services, the police department's gonna be one of the first areas that's probably gonna get hit. It's one of the largest expenditures. With the growth, you got two things going for you. It's gonna increase your assessed valuation, which is gonna help the school district, because their property tax is gonna be based off assessed valuation, which is gonna help their bottom line. The fire department actually has a sales tax right now that they receive. You increase their retail development in town, you're going to help the fire department out in the long run, because it's going to increase their tax base. So maybe if those things start happening, other entities can look at rolling back their property tax levy at the same time if their valuation's increasing, they're bringing more money in other ways. The city can do so much, but the big thing the city can do is to increase growth, which helps those other organizations out as well.
Thank you.
I believe your question was, and correct me if I'm wrong, what would you like to reduce the property tax levy? Is that not correct?
If you're still choosing to reduce, knowing that we only have $1.72 of that $100 of assessed levy, do you still see us reducing those taxes, or, how do you see moving forward?
I think that the thing we should strive for is to reduce the water and sewer rates, because that would have a greater impact on more citizens of this community. You have to realize that we talk about bond debt and debt and debt, but the water and sewer are not debt because they're not ours. We don't own them. So that, approximately, I don't know, just a minute, I'll look it up. What we still owe on that, is approximately $16 million, which isn't shown in debt of the $24,972,000 that we have. So we're looking at $40 million, basically, that we owe. We can't call it debt because we don't own the sewer, and we don't own, anyway, Blue Springs passed the bonds, and so we pay Blue Springs a payment every year. But if we could reduce it, I would rather reduce the water and sewer because it affects more people. And I'd rather pay those off first to get that out of the way.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks. I just want to make sure that everybody's aware, we are going to be done by 8:30, regardless of where we are. We have time for maybe one more, maybe two questions. So we're filtering through, trying to find the best ones we can of those that we have left. This next one, we have a lot of wonderful community activities, but don't have a lot of participation in them. What would be your plan of action in getting more community involvement in these activities? And understanding in that, and it's been recognized by several tonight, we have a major lack of communication within the community. What would be your plan to better communicate? A practical plan that has some bones to it, some structure to it, to better communicate what's going on throughout the community to increase that involvement. And we'll begin with Chris tonight on this one.
Well, the internet, first off, we need to maybe post more on the internet, try to get people to go to the website, the Grand Valley website. Twitter, try to get on Twitter and reach out to people more. The newspaper was a great idea to try to get the community involved more for people that don't have access to the internet, and just any way possible to try to get more involvement from the citizens of Green Valley. The website is a big one. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, anything that we can to just reach out to people to try to get them to join the community and join the progress and try to get them to come out for the city of Green Valley.
Alderman Arnold?
Well, some of the things I think we've done, and we need to continue going in that direction. One of the things I think is one of the better things that the community did was when they took over a portion of the Monkey Mountain and put the ball fields there. So many of our students had to go out of the community for sports activities and had nowhere to do it here locally. Now they have an opportunity to do it here locally. So when the parents come home, because the majority of people work out of the community, they come home, they take their children out to the field, and then they stop at the stores here in town, get dinner on the way, pick up groceries on the way home to fix it after the game or whatever. But they're staying in the community more, and we need more of that. And that was probably one of the things that was in the back of my mind the most, and I mentioned it with the city manager, that we need to start putting temporary fields up here at the land that we just purchased. Because when we look at our community, there's very little land left undeveloped that would take, we wouldn't have to buy houses and tear them down and spend major dollars on. We had a very good opportunity to buy something at less than half the price it had been listed for at one time on the real estate market. And it gives us a huge piece of property. It gives us so many opportunities to partner with other entities, the facilities there, because we have facilities that are undersized with our community center, or undersized with our pool. You know, we built what we could at the time. That was one of the times that they were staying within their budget and built what they could afford. They needed twice the size, even at that point. Somewhere along the line, the community's gonna say, we need a bigger community center. It'll be up to the community if they wanna have it, just like they do with the schools, just like they've done with a lot of the other things. We'll go to them once we've heard their request, and we'll ask them in a vote, referendum, to approve the taxes that we'll need to pay for something like that to bring it to our community. I see it somewhere in our future in the next 5 to 10 years for something we're gonna have to do. And having that property there open, so we're not having to take anybody's property away, not having to do eminent domain, or anything like that. We have property available to do it, and we can start planning now because we have it in the inventory on what is the best use and feasibility for that property so we can meet the needs of the community going along. And we got it at a lot cheaper price now than if we'd went looking 5 or 10 years down the road. If we wouldn't have touched it then for the same money.
Alderman West?
I think one avenue that exists with regards to communication is a serious issue within this community, as everyone has alluded to. There is one avenue that there is some reluctance on the part of the school, and that is to send that type of communication if there is some big program that's going on, whether it be the Taste of the World or some of the other programs that the chamber puts on and things like that. If we could send a note home with each of the school children to let their parents know that these things are going on. Facebook that is certainly one area that's helped improve communication in that regard. But there are a lot of senior citizens that, first of all, don't like computers, don't use computers, don't even look at a computer, and so they don't get the information that these programs are available. When they do show up, and they enjoy themselves at these programs. So I think that's an area that we need to continue to explore. I know there is resistance on the part of the school to put anything send anything home with the children.
Thank you. Mrs. Totten, just to recap the question, we've all alluded to the fact that we've got a wonderful community and a lot of wonderful community activities, but we have a major lack of communication in the community. So what we're asking the candidates tonight is, what would be your plan of action in getting more community involvement in these activities and a system of communication?
Well,
I'm one of the ones that doesn't like the computer because that's there forever. I also know they get too much information that can harm people, so I'm not into that. However, we do get a water bill, and if the school doesn't want anything pertaining to the alcoholics, why don't we put it in with the water bill on the bottom, some of the stuff that there is? Our community center, I would think, would encourage, a bulletin boards there. I know the seniors have their luncheons, and they put out information, which helps some of the seniors that don't get onto the computer, but hate to tell you, there's more of them on there than you think. But I also think that, the libraries, the post office has, if you go to the post office today, my good Lord, they've got everything under the sun up there, what's going on, which is good, but if people wanna know, they'll find out. I mean, truthfully, there's people that are interested in scouting and events, they find out what's going on. I mean, I truthfully believe if we wanna know something, it's not, it comes, we could get through the water bill, but we should try to encourage more participation with the police academy. Do a ride-along with the police officer. Oh, you'll be in for a shock. I've done that a few times. Get involved in search, so you know how to protect yourselves if there's a tornado in that. It's good education. And spreading it around, I have no trouble with my neighborhood.
Thank you, Mrs. Stoughton.
Yes.
I mean, we keep hearing the communication is an issue. I mean, I think what it's gonna boil down to is it's gonna boil down to the Board of Aldermen needing to make a tough decision that they're gonna have to budget and spend more money on communication. We have the newsletter, we have the newsletters that go out, but we've cut those back, I think, twice a year because of cost. We could make those more frequent. We could do more frequent newsletters. We could put more stuff in the water bill, but every time we put a flyer in the water bill, that's an additional cost for printing and those such things. We have the computer you can access, but really, I mean, monitoring Facebook, answering questions on Facebook, Twitter, all those things, you're really gonna have to add a information officer, public information officer to take care of those and to really get the information out there. So, I mean, to truly make an impact in communication that the community wants, I think it's gonna come at a cost to the city and the Board of Aldermen. We're going to have to make some decisions to budget more money for publications and bring on a public information officer.
Well, most of you will be shocked, but I agree with Nancy Totten. I think that if we put a one-page flyer in the water bill every month with what's going on, it'd be wonderful. You can get on the internet and you can find that Alexis, whatever her name was, is still the city administrator of Green Valley in one website. So you have to really search through the websites to find out what's going on. And if we put just a one-page flyer, I don't think that would be a large cost to add that to the water bill every month to say, these are the activities that are coming up. This is what's going on. Ding.
Alderman Headley, thank you, sir.
Well, the mayor kind of stole one of my thoughts. Is there's so many I guess avenues for communication, and to monitor and make sure that the communication is a standard, unified message that goes out, whatever that message is, how we answer messages, how we get information out. I think that's, very key. One of the other things I think, a comment was made about the newspaper, and it was nice to have the newspaper. We may be able to, we've got a great relationship with the school district now. We should look at possibly some new ways. Maybe we can look at reinvigorating a newspaper. I don't know what that means, what it would take, but they're, you know, they have a great media department, they got a lot of smart kids. We could do things like that. A lot of it too is, you know, citizens, you know, there's some citizens are very engaged and some wanna go to work, come home, they don't want any part of anything else. So I don't know how you reach all those people other than try to figure out a way to get some unified messaging system or something, some way to let everyone know. And maybe when you sign up for your water bill, you know, we sign up for some text alerting or something, and, you know, we hit you with 4 or 5 texts a month and let you know. I mean, the school district has that, several organizations in town use something like that. Any avenue we can, you know, go down for that, I think is key. But it goes back to, you know, I think we have to have, consider a public information officer.
Thank you, sir. I want to say thank you to each of you for your time, for your service, and your consideration to serve. Thank you for your time tonight. And thank you to all of you for being here tonight and for your time. And if you have other questions, I'm sure the candidates would be willing to maybe hang around a few minutes and answer your questions directly. But thank you so much for coming out. Have a good evening.